From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. Today we're diving into a topic that's becoming more important for Kentuckians every year, ticks. With multiple tick species calling Kentucky home and more prevalent cases of tick-borne illnesses like Lyme disease and alpha-gal syndrome, what do we need to know to stay safe? A little later, we'll hear from Dr. Jonathan Larson, an assistant professor of entomology at the University of Kentucky. But let's start the conversation now with Matthew Vanderpool, an environmental health specialist with the Louisville Metro Department of Public Health and Wellness. He studies vector-borne diseases spread by ticks and mosquitoes and works on ways to reduce them. He's also involved in the Spotted Tick and Share initiative, which encourages the public to help track Kentucky's tick population. Matthew, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here with you.
So, Matthew, tick season is approaching. When would you say it officially begins, and what part of the season is most critical to be aware of?
Well, I hate to tell you, but that's a loaded question because ticks and even mosquitoes, which is something else that's near and dear to my heart, they're actually created to survive this fabulous weather that we've seen this winter. I mean, this is one of our colder winters, obviously one of our snowier and icier winters. But you have to get like negative 10-degree temperatures sustained to really start to kill ticks. So once you start to see 40 to 50-degree temperatures regularly, certain ticks will come out of their diapause or a dormancy period. They'll start walking around. So you can have like black-legged ticks, the ones that have been implicated in carrying Lyme disease. Those ticks can be operating all winter long, so long as it's not below 50 degrees. So you'll see them in the springtime. You'll see them throughout the summer. Once we start to get really hot and really dry, you'll see fewer ticks. So like late fall, if we haven't had a whole lot of rain and it starts to dry out and the humidity levels go way down, then you'll tend to see less. So high humidity, ticks love it. Above 50 degrees, ticks need it. But anytime that you're outside, just always be ready to know that ticks are going to be someplace.
Do you think there's a season, though, where it's like most,
So late spring, early summer, You're going to see when we've gone out and done tick drags, that's when we start to see most of our ticks.
Yeah. And can you explain what a tick drag is?
Sure. So not everybody wants to be bait for ticks. I can respect that. I go out in the woods all the time. One of my great passions is backpacking, so I'm always finding ticks on me. But all things considered, I don't want ticks on me.
Right.
So a great way to be able to survey for ticks in an area is you get a 1 meter section of cloth, you attach a stick to it, and then you drag it through brush and over top of vegetation and things like that. Well, ticks think that that's an animal walking close. They actually have these glands in their hands called howler organs, and they can smell people or animals coming, and they'll actually orient themselves and their claws towards the direction that things are coming from, and they just hook into it. Well, they'll hook into the cloth. You take a few steps, and then you turn the cloth over, and you find whatever ticks have attached to the cloth, and then that's part of your survey work.
So what ticks are here in Kentucky?
The three big ones that we normally see on people and on pets are going to be the Lone Star tick. That's what we see 90% of the time is Lone Star ticks. We also have the American dog tick, and then we have black-legged ticks, or the deer tick. On top of that, we have brown dog ticks, rabbit ticks. I've identified one of, I think it's 17 longhorn ticks that we just recently have had come into the state. We also have Gulf Coast ticks as well.
Yeah. So regionally, where are ticks in Kentucky the greatest issue?
Trees, vegetation, leaf litter on the ground, you're going to have ticks.
How concerned should those in the Louisville metro area be about ticks, walking their pets, just walking around, gardening in the backyard, doing kind of everyday tasks?
Well, I mean, I think that everybody should be aware of like basic things. One, if you're going to spend any time outside, you need to wear some type of an insect repellent. Since we've had the Spotted Tick and Share program, we have found ticks in urban areas that are all concrete. I won't tell specific places because everybody knows some of these places, but all concrete with bushes to make things look pretty.
Right.
And ticks there.
Right.
parks. I mean, everybody knows that they're going to find ticks in a park. It's just kind of natural. But anytime that you're going to be outside, especially if you know that you have critters coming across your property, there's a better chance that you're going to have ticks. It's important to always keep your grass mowed down so that it's less inviting to ticks.
Yeah.
If you live in some of our newer subdivisions that have tree preservation areas, those are beautiful and they're great and they're necessary within an urban suburban landscape. But it's also important to know that when your dogs and cats get out into those areas, or if you see deer coming through your property, that you're most likely going to have more tick issues.
So concrete places, even, you can find them. That's really surprising because we are always thinking about brushing against them. But I think there are also some ticks like the Lone Star. Doesn't it also chase its host?
Well, it's called questing. It's called questing behavior. It's not like they're dropping out of trees or running and jumping on you or anything like that. I took my son out to I'm trying to think, Patoka Lake to watch the eclipse. And we found this really nice place in the middle of nowhere, and we walked through, and no ticks getting over to the lake, even though we were going through heavy brush. I was like, wow, that's surprising. And then I stopped moving, and they started crawling up my boots and up my pants legs. I mean, not onesies and twosies, but like 15s and 20s.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow.
So they're not jumping on you, but they will certainly start crawling up onto you if you give them the opportunity.
So, Matthew, you mentioned this. The Louisville Metro Department of Public Health and Wellness has partnered with Louisville Metro Parks and Recreation for the Spotted Tick and Share program, which has been running since 2022. Mm-hmm. Can you share more about this initiative and what inspired its launch, and what have you discovered so far from this program?
So, Louisville is blessed to have an a health department that has very diverse specialized areas like our food program and our public facilities program and a vector control program. As more attention came out, we've always done mosquito control. We've done mosquito control since 1956. Mm-hmm. We understand mosquitoes, but the CDC highlighted more and more information. It's like, hey, there's a lot of tick-borne disease out here that's really not getting a whole bunch of play, and it's something that public health officials need to be concerned about. So we kind of brainstormed, like, how can we do this? Because we've got 4 environmentalists to take care of all of the mosquito issues in Jefferson County, and there's a lot. Mm-hmm. So as we brainstorm this, it's like, how about we crowdsource that? How about we reach out to the community? Because 4 of us, we can only get a few places over the course of a mosquito or a tick season, but people are going to get things from their yard. They're going to get things when they're out hiking and everywhere else. So we knew that we had to have more hands, and that seemed to be the easiest way to do it. There's a lot of media attention on ticks right now, and then that helps get our message out. So essentially, we tried to create a way to facilitate people getting their ticks looked at so that we as a large batch can push information out and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. These are the diseases that we're testing for. This is where we're finding those diseases and that sort of thing. But we just needed more boots on the ground to be able to bring samples in. And
have you come to any conclusions or discoveries since the program began?
Well, because of the program itself, that's how we found the first Asian longhorn tick in this area. Technically, it's in Bullitt County, but there's a section of Bullitt County where it's about 1,500 feet between Jefferson, Bullitt, and Spencer. So any deer with 3 legs, didn't even have 4, could travel all the way across. So to say that it's only in that one part of the county, no. So yes, we found that. We can absolutely say that we found Rocky Mountain spotted fever in the tick populations in Jefferson County. We found ehrlichiosis in the tick populations in Jefferson County. Now, the state is doing some really great work. The UK is doing some really great work with ticks. We wanted to be able to do it on a very, very granular level in Jefferson County so that we could really help the residents of Jefferson County be able to make good choices and know what they need to do when they're going outside.
That's great. So since the Lone Star tick is kind of the main one to be concerned about, what are the tick-borne illnesses that are coming from the Lone Star tick?
Yeah, ehrlichiosis is your big concern right there. And there's also one it's called STARI. It's a Southern Tick-Associated Rash Illness. It's similar to Lyme, but it's not Lyme. There's been a lot of research done on trying to to hammer out what the causative agent is in that.
Yeah.
But ehrlichiosis is where you're really looking. It's like American dog ticks. They're going to carry Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and your black-legged ticks carry Lyme.
Right. Well, so according to the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services, probable and confirmed cases of Lyme disease have increased from 30 cases in 2020 to 70 cases in 2022. That's a notable increase. Does this trend cause concern?
What we find, and I don't necessarily know that this is what's causing that trend, but what we tend to find in public health is that as doctors become more aware of any disease, then they start testing for that disease. So there could have been an underlying level of this that was going undiagnosed. But as the medical profession is like, oh gosh, do we have that in this area? Okay, well then maybe we should run tests for that. Then we start seeing more of it. And that's actually one of the big report outs that we want to do within the health department to the greater Louisville medical community is we want to get good information to then tell the physicians in Jefferson County, hey, if you have people that are presenting with this symptom or that symptom or that symptom, we absolutely have these diseases in Jefferson County without question because we've tested them in our lab, we found them. So you may want to start doing this battery of tests. So we want to not just tell the citizenry of Jefferson County, this is what we're seeing, but we want to make sure that the medical community is also seeing this information and then using it to make sure that people are as healthy and safe as they can be.
We're going to dive deeper on this in just a moment. You're listening to On Track. Springtime is just around the corner, and it's not too soon to start planting your garden. Maybe you're wondering if your spot is sunny enough to support sweet peas, how to make your rosebuds abundant, or when to prune your poplar. Ask our master gardeners. Call or text 502-814-TALK. That's 502-814-8255 with your questions for On Track's Spring Gardening Show. You're on track, and we're talking about ticks, what we should be aware of, and how to stay safe with Matthew Vanderpool, an environmental health specialist with the Louisville Metro Department of Public Health and Wellness. We're also joined now by Dr. Jonathan Larson. He's the co-host of the Arthropod podcast and provides his insect expertise for those dealing with issues in urban landscapes, turf grasses, nursery crops, greenhouses, and households. All right, Dr. Larson, we've been talking about the rise in tick-borne diseases, and from recent CDC data, we can see that Kentucky has one of the highest prevalence rates of alpha-gal, a red meat allergy. It's transmitted by Lone Star tick bites. What is alpha-gal, and what factors might be contributing to this high rate?
So with alpha-gal, this is a phenomenon where a tick, the Lone Star tick, as far as we know, is the only vector for it. It will pick up a sugar molecule from feeding on a mammal that isn't a primate, and then when it bites us, it passes the sugar molecule called alpha-gal from its mouth parts into our bloodstream. Since we're the only mammals that don't have this sugar molecule, our body reacts very violently to this. It produces an allergic response, and then the next time you eat alpha-gal in the form of red meat, whether it's beef, pork, venison, whatever it is that you're chowing down on, once that gets in your stomach, your body will mount that same immune response. And so you end up really nauseous usually. There's a variety of symptoms that people can experience.
And then I've heard, I think, like, once you have that, it's like you can only eat feathers and fins. Was that the, yeah.
Feathers and fins, yeah, that's the catchphrase in that community. And there's varying degrees of expression. Some people, it really is only eating red meat directly. Some people, they experience it with dairy. Some people even experience problems with soaps and things of that nature. So it does change your life to have it. As for why this is kind of the epicenter, we see that Kentucky and Missouri, Tennessee, Arkansas, there's this like valley of problems that are appearing on that CDC map. I think it has mostly to do with the prevalence of Lone Star ticks in this area. It's become the top tick, the chief tick in the southeast. And so I think anywhere that it reigns supreme, you're going to see more alpha-gal issues.
Does that become a lifelong allergy too once you're infected?
That's a great question. Some people age out of it. It's been shown that you can, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, you may not experience the symptoms anymore. But I have met people in my travels that seem to have been dealing with it for 3 to 5 years. So it's not a guarantee that you'll grow out of it or age out of it. And the problem is that if you're exposed to it again, you kind of relapse back into the allergy. So if you get bit by another Lone Star tick with the sugar molecule, you'll have it again. And I should stress, not every tick has it. If you get bit by one, it's not like not a total death sentence for your hamburger loving ways. It's just it does happen occasionally.
So, Dr. Larson, how would you identify the Lone Star tick?
The main way that we identify it is its rounder body. So compared to other ticks, it is more circular in shape throughout its life. As an adult, it does start to get more of a teardrop shape, but it still looks more like a hockey puck than all the other ticks do. The other thing that is pretty easy is if you've been bitten by an adult female, they have a singular white dot on their back that sets them apart from the other ticks.
So some tick-borne, we're talking about how some tick-borne diseases can be really hard to detect. And so like when we're talking about Lyme's disease or alpha-gal, I know they're very different things. Matthew, what are some signs that you might have these tick-borne diseases?
Unfortunately, most tick-borne diseases start out with flu-like symptoms. It's always the nebulous flu-like symptoms. With things like Rocky Mountain spotted fever, you have this rash. With Lyme disease, you may have a bullseye rash, and people talk about it as like a bullseye bruise. It's not really a bruise. It's a rash. And what's kind of gross but interesting in the same light, where that rash starts and the outside ring, that's actually the causative agent, Borrelia burgdorferi. That's actually it replicating and moving out throughout your body. So the bullseye rash is how far out that organism is spreading within you. The thing is, though, is that not everybody has that reaction. So it's a telltale sign, but everybody doesn't get that. But yeah, weird flu-like symptoms when you're outside of flu season and you know that you spent a lot of time outside, especially if you found a tick embedded in you. And the magic number with ticks is like 12 hours.
Right.
If you were outside and then 2 hours later, you're like, oh gosh, there's a tick in my arm or whatever else. If you get it out safely, then yeah, be cautious of that particular area. But it's not, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But just always in the back of your mind, when you have ticks on you and more importantly, in you, and you get flu-like symptoms, these are things that you would tell your physician. It's like, hey, I was outside, pulled 1 to 15 ticks off of me. I'm feeling kind of flu-like. I'm kind of concerned about this.
So if a person suspects they have a tick-borne illness, what specific tests or treatments should they advocate for when they're visiting the doctor?
That's actually something that I would totally talk to a medical professional about, because I know that there has to be specific tests. I mean, when we do our tests on ticks themselves, we're running PCR tests. There's going to be some type of an immunoassay that they would use, but the specific tests I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Dr. Larson, anything to add?
There are multiple professional people that will do that, or organizations that will do that across the country. But I also would turn to a doctor for that. You should advocate that if you feel strange, you want this test, you're willing to pay for it. Don't take no for an answer. If you're really worried about it, you can always find another physician.
Yeah, I like
not to
that.
Talk about doctor hopping.
Yes, I love that. Well, I did hear rumblings, and maybe you both know this, and tell me if not, but I heard rumblings that there are vaccines being developed for some tick-borne diseases. Are you aware of any advancements or solutions for prevention that might be different or new?
I haven't seen anything that's going out to consumers anytime soon.
Okay. Dr. Larson?
Nothing human related.
Okay. Good to know. Well, we talked about, how, all these different diseases, all these different ticks in the area. So how can we protect ourselves and our pets from tick bites when heading outside this upcoming season?
Well, any kind of insect repellent that says that it keeps ticks off of you, that's where I would start. What I have found is that DEET is kind of the best catch-all. It works marginally well for ticks. The one thing that really works the best for ticks that I've found is permethrin. So the problem with permethrin is that you have to have like dedicated clothes. It's not something that you can spray on your skin. If you spray permethrin directly on your skin, you can make yourself sick. It's designed to be sprayed on the clothes that you're going to wear when you're outside. And that's kind of your go-to clothes for the next 2 or 3 washing cycles. But permethrin, I found, works the best. DEET works fairly well. I don't personally use anything else. I know that different things work differently for mosquitoes as well. So, but long pants, you look like an idiot because you get to wear your long pants and you tuck them into your socks and you walk around like high water pants on. But the thing is, those adult ticks, that will keep adult ticks from going up your pants legs.
That sounds stylish to me.
It's the peak of fashion.
That's right. Dr. Larson, do you have anything to add for prevention?
No, I just absolutely would reiterate that the repellents are great. DEET is the standby. You'll see ticks listed on picaridin, IR3535, and oil of lemon eucalyptus. But as was mentioned before, they have varying degrees of protection. Permethrin is an insecticide. Do not spray it on your skin. Don't get it near your cats. But you can spray clothing, and once it dries, you'll be protected.
Matthew, you said you talked about adult ticks. Does it matter what stage in their life cycle that we should be aware of?
So, because of the things that I like to do in my fun time, going out in the woods and whatever else, I come in contact with all different stages of ticks. And people will call them turkey mites and turkey ticks and things like that. It's kind of a misnomer, but they're nymph ticks. Little teeny tiny things, or larval ticks even smaller than that. And I've actually had ticks crawl up my shoes and go through the weave of my socks and be embedded in my skin because they went through the weave of my socks. So the smaller they are, the more that they can get through.
Well, then that brings me to this question. What's best practice for tick checking on yourself and your pets?
One, wear light colored clothes as best you can. That way you can see what might be on you while you're still walking and being out there. Ticks, I've found, tend to get into tight places. So you're probably not going to find one in the middle of your thigh or on your forearm. They're going to be in an armpit or at your waistband or, sometimes behind an ear, that sort of thing. Also, as strange as it sounds, they'll go into your belly button and they'll embed themselves in your belly button. So out of the way places that aren't going to be rubbed and brushed on your clothes as you're walking around, those are the places that you want to pay closest attention to. Dr.
Larson?
Stinky, smelly, hairy places that you don't normally show to other humans. That's where ticks want to be.
That's great. That should be a poster. Maybe an idea for public health concern.
An infographic.
I mean, for both of you, do you feel like this is a public health concern that doesn't get as much attention as it should, or are people becoming more aware?
I think people
are absolutely becoming more aware.
Exactly. And it's our job as researchers and public health officials to make sure that message gets out.
So I think this is cool. The University of Kentucky's Department of Entomology also has a tick tracking program, the Kentucky Tick Surveillance Project. What concerns led to the conception of this project, and how does your program work?
So that's under the purview of Dr. Reddy Polly, who is our state entomologist as well as the chair of the entomology department. And he came up with this program after working with veterinarians and doctors across the state to receive ticks on campus. He and his former graduate student, Anna Pasternak, they sort of put this project out into the world that was a citizen science effort to invite people to mail ticks within the Commonwealth, that we would identify the ticks, that they would test these ticks, and if there was a pathogen in there, they would let you know at some point in the future. But it kind of got a little mixed messaging on social media, and it turned into it was going to be a free tick testing service. You didn't have to bother with your doctor anymore. The University of Kentucky would tell you if you'd been exposed to Lyme disease or whichever problem you were most worried about. And also that the University of Kentucky wanted everybody's ticks. And so it turned into this national, not international, but mostly American phenomenon where people were mailing us ticks from across the country. It got really, really bananas really fast. We were receiving 300 to 400 ticks a day from Montana and California, Maine, all these different far-flung places that we can't really serve. And the mailroom people, they absolutely hated us during this phenomenon. This was like in 22 and 23 this happened most prevalently. These social media posts would go super viral, and we were getting live ticks. People would just sort of put them in boxes and they would start escaping
Oh,
downstairs.
no.
People were like putting fully engorged ticks, which they're kind of like the size of a little blueberry, and they're full of blood. They'd put it in a paper envelope, and mail sorting machines are not very gentle, so we would get envelopes filled with blood and tick bits. It was very strange, but it was also very enlightening. We kind of took away from that experience that this is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. People are scared of ticks, and they want information.
That's incredible. I think I would quit the mailroom, though.
Yes.
So there are many myths about removing ticks, like burning them off, using petroleum jelly or nail polish to remove them. But what is the safest, most accurate way to remove a tick from yourself or a pet?
I get a lot of questions about this as I go around the state. And yeah, the best thing to do is to get a pair of pointy tweezers and then go down as close to your skin as possible where the tick's head is embedded inside of you, and grip its head and then pull steadily straight up. Tick mouth parts do have backward facing barbs that help to embed them where they're feeding, so they will be hard to remove, but if you use enough pressure, you will get it out. You don't want to grip it and rip it and break pieces of the tick off inside of you. That could lead to secondary infections. You don't want to kind of wiggle the tick around too much because, again, you're snapping pieces of it off in you. The things we want to avoid, especially while it's plugged into you, would be agitating it with any sort of substance on the outside. So it is true if you pour an essential oil, or if you pour rubbing alcohol on the tick. I've even had people tell me they use bourbon, which seems like a sin in this state, in my opinion. But they'll pour that stuff on the tick, and then the tick will disengage from their body. But what's happened coincidentally at the same time is that the tick is most likely vomited into you because you've sort of agitated it, and that can increase the possibility of pathogen transmission. So don't put flame on it, don't put any of those other things on it. Get the tick out of you, and then I would encourage people to keep it for at least a little while. Put it in a little container with rubbing alcohol, put it in a Ziploc bag and put a date on it, and then put it in your freezer maybe. And if you do start to experience any flu-like symptoms or show any rashes at the bite site, you'll have the tick to show to the medical professional who hopefully will know what it could possibly be carrying. It can help narrow things down a little bit.
And would that be the same for a pet, taking it off that way?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I forgot our furry friends in my explanation, but yes.
Well, Dr. Larson Matthew, thanks so much for being here on Track.
Happy to be here.
I appreciate the invite. I hope everybody stays safe from ticks and has a wonderful summer.
Dr. Jonathan Larson is an assistant professor of entomology at the University of Kentucky and co-host of the Arthropod podcast, and Matthew Vanderpool is an environmental health specialist with the Louisville Metro Department of Public Health and Wellness and a key contributor to the Spotted Tick and Share initiative. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Jacob Munoz, Alex Biscardi, Laura Ellis, and honorary guest team members Charles Spivey and Russell Wells. If you're just tuning in and you want to hear the full show, you can find it now at LouisvilleOnTrack.org or in your favorite podcast app. And let's continue the conversation. Is there something you want to hear about? Something that matters to your Kentuckiana experience? Let us know by sending us a text or giving us a call at 502-814-TALK or send an email to ontrack@lpm.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, after the trail, check head to tail. Until next time, you're on track with Louisville Public Media.